Welcome to Greenville, South Carolina. A relatively unknown American city, its humble municipal population of just 73,000 people only tells part of the story. In reality, Greenville's metro area has been one of the fastest growing in the United States and is the largest in South Carolina. Greenville County has a population of 558,000, ballooning from the 380,000 it was in 2000 and nearly 2.5 times larger than it was in 1970. With Greenville halfway between Atlanta and Charlotte, it has been a hub for industry and company offices that are largely based in the southeast. However, in terms of urban design, Greenville is one of the most sprawling urban areas in the country. Inefficient, car-centric suburbia defines the urban landscape of Greenville. With most of Greenville's growth being post-1960, Greenville was unlucky to see most of its development unfold in this way as compared to older, more established cities. Because of this, despite its overall large population, Greenville's downtown urban core is small and was largely undeveloped. Looking at the downtown 20 years ago, and you see that it is largely parking lots, undeveloped land, and uninteresting single-use buildings, with some small stretches of walkable retail in Greenville's remaining historic buildings. This was no urban center for such a large and important city. It simply made no sense that as the city was ever expanding with its continued high influx of new residents, that its downtown was in this sort of unimpressive empty state. This is why Greenville over the past decade has worked to completely redefine its downtown and surrounding urban fabric, and is now one of the most exciting and evolving cities in the US. Hey guys, if you're enjoying the video, be sure to drop a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Over the past several years, a slew of new apartment buildings, office buildings, and hotels have been built in the downtown to fill in some critical gaps. While many have bland modern designs, most at least attempt to be built in a way that uses appropriate materials and inoffensive facades, even if they are on the more boring side. Some of these developments replace surface lots, or formerly low-density buildings, but some were also used to extend the reach of the downtown, mostly in what's called the West End area, which was formerly undeveloped or underutilized land considering the proximity to downtown. Now take a look at this map I put together in order to get a better idea of Greenville's development in the present moment. In blue are projects that have been completed since 2020, in red is what's currently under construction, and in pink is what is proposed, according to my research. This also doesn't include the myriad of homes and townhomes built in the recent years that have largely densified the neighborhoods immediately surrounding the urban center. Looking at recent completions, we have these townhomes on Clausen and Thruston Avenue, the 227-unit 408 Jackson Apartments, the 246-unit McLaren, which sits across from these new beautiful townhomes, the 167-unit Merrill Gardens, the 38-unit Markley Place, the brand new Federal Courthouse building, the mixed-use 48-unit Canvas Lofts and accompanying townhomes, the new Grand Bohemian Lodge on the newly bricked-up Falls Street, and finally the 217-unit Decca Camperdown Apartments, adjacent to Camperdown Plaza that also includes retail, a new office tower, and a hotel. For just 5 years, that is a lot of development, but there's so much more to come in the next few years. Let's take a look. One of Greenville's goals is to develop urban nodes outside of the city center, as any strong town should have, as a superior alternative to the big box store and mini mall style development you tend to see outside of city centers all across the country. West Greenville is just over a mile from the developing West End neighborhood and nearly 2 miles from downtown. And with an established retail strip of local small businesses and historical buildings, this is the optimal spot for a neighborhood center. Therefore, on largely empty and underutilized land just west of the current retail strip are two exciting projects. The first is the Kitson, which are these 24 townhomes that look quite beautiful and should add a lot of life to the area. But the second and the truly defining project of West Greenville is Woven. Woven will essentially function as a mixed-use neighborhood center with 214 residential units and retail. These sketches look absolutely beautiful, and it will be really great to see the full potential of this area be realized with such a substantial project. 3 miles south of the city center, you have the Augusta Road Corridor, which is a typical suburban, off-the-highway, single-use retail area that is incredibly ugly, car-centric, and is more asphalt than anything else. Greenville now has a plan as of 2024 to convert this area into an urban gateway. There are no sketched out plans besides these that show the densification this area is bound to undergo, with a supposed aim towards beautification, transit access, and livability, with mixed-use development being discussed. 3 miles southeast of downtown is the Lawrence Road Corridor, which is the typical suburban strode, an insanely wide 8-lane road with car dealerships, drive-thrus, and massive big box stores and mini mall plazas with acres of surface parking. Verde Development has created a master plan for this 90-acre area to turn it into a new neighborhood center with mixed-use buildings and walkable streets, as well as increased connectivity to surrounding neighborhoods. Some parts of this project have already gone underway, but due to the sheer size of this project, they say it could take up to 25 years before it's fully completed. But if successful, this will be one of the great turnarounds for such a horribly designed area, but could also serve as inspiration for other similar developments that you see everywhere. About a mile and a half north from downtown, you have this former industrial site of Poe Mill, becoming yet another neighborhood village. It will have 482 residential units, as well as retail and public spaces built over 11 acres, with its architecture clearly a nod to its past use. And about a mile northwest of Poe Mill is another former industrial area of the Union Bleachery Mill, but this is now a $2 billion, 240-acre redevelopment project with over 1,600 residential units. As the number suggests, this will be no local neighborhood center. Rather, this is an entirely new urban core for the northwestern suburbs of Greenville, and the current renderings back that up, with medium and high-density mixed-use buildings, townhomes, research and academic campuses, public plazas, and ample green space all in the plans. The first phase of this insane project has already started, with the early construction of a 227-unit apartment building. As for downtown Greenville, there are plenty of projects to cover that are coming in the near future. First is the high-rise, dubbed Greenville Gateway, replacing this empty lot with a 342-unit residential tower. I'm personally not a fan of this sort of development and would much prefer these residential units be spread out throughout downtown in 6 to 9-story beautiful gentle density buildings, creating vibrant destination streets in the process. But a lot of people out there think that big cities need skyscrapers, so considering Greenville is now a big city, I guess this was inevitable. Another high-rise is also planned. The 19-story, 264-unit mixed-use building will become a focal point to the newly dubbed Cultural Corridor in the northwest part of downtown, and will, if anything, be an improvement over the parking structure that currently occupies that space. Away from there, you have some nice townhome developments, such as the Courtview Townhomes project, and these beautiful Parisian-style townhomes on McBee Avenue called the McDaniel. Then you have this horrendous building from the 1970s that actually served as Greenville City Hall, right in the heart of downtown, but it is now actually being torn down and supposedly will be replaced by a mixed-use building that is meant to be an architectural gem. There are no renderings for this yet, but I'd love to see what is planned for this highly important location. There are then 4 projects in the West End district worth talking about. The first is 319 Rhett Street, which will add a hotel, 245 residential units, and Main Street retail to this formerly underdeveloped plot of land. While the tower itself is fairly bland, the street-level facades of this project actually look really great. Just a couple of blocks down from there will be the Kimpton Hotel. You might have noticed that a lot of these projects include hotel accommodations, and upon research, it seems like there's actually a very high hotel demand in Greenville all throughout the week, so all these hotel projects are well justified. And so, speaking of hotels, here's the absolutely beautiful unnamed hotel project on Pendleton Street. This will be a mixed-use project and will also include event spaces and a rooftop bar. This has got to be one of the best buildings architecturally that we have seen so far. And lastly for the West End neighborhood will be the Mosaic, which will consist of 3 mixed-use apartment buildings totaling at 231 units, as well as 60 townhomes to fill in the block. But now for 2 really exciting projects on the south side of downtown Greenville to end today's video. Greenville will be expanding its downtown south with these projects, adding another new urban district to the city center as they had already done with the West End. The first project is the amazingly beautiful Biltmore Walk, featuring 44 luxury townhomes and a public plaza, all done in this awe-inducing colonial style that fits in perfectly to the region. Those of you who watch this channel regularly will not at all be surprised to hear that this is my favorite of all the projects we've covered today. This is how you spruce up a quiet neighborhood with increased density while maintaining that ever-desirable quaint character. And last, but certainly not least, is the massive Greenville County Square, replacing the site of a former mall and surface lots with a substantial urban development. With a cost of over $1 billion, this project will provide over 1,800 residential units, retail, offices, and even civic buildings, with public space and an emphasis on walkability. While the only completed building is this ugly modern government building, what's to come looks like it will incorporate some classical designs, at least on street level. As you can see with this project, as well as all the others I mentioned today, Greenville is rapidly reshaping itself into a proper city and moving towards something far more sustainable and viable than just endless, boring, and highly inefficient suburbia. Yes, the majority of these projects aren't quite up to the architectural standard we have on this channel, but things could certainly be a lot worse. In fact, they usually are. So I think it's right to view what's happening in Greenville as an absolute positive. All in all, it's great that American cities are finally learning to stop spreading themselves out so thinly and have started putting real effort into making their cities as great as they could and should be. Well, at least some American cities. But for a city as ridiculously sprawling as Greenville to be going down this direction is very much promising, and a sign that there will be great opportunities to input our optimistic vision for American cities sooner than we perhaps thought. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. And now a shout out to my incredible supporters on Patreon: Sven Weisbrod, Guy Courtois, Jean Baptista, Ruben Hansen, James Whale, Michael Goldman, Ulysses Arnold, Ehsan Mirza, Joseph, Andrew Groger, Roach, Eric Martz, Simon Kendrick, and my dad.